What's up, guys? James Carter TV here for yet another one of my 2016 NFL Draft recaps. And today we are talking about the Green Bay Packers. And I think more years than most, this was an important draft for the Green Bay Packers. Last year, they took a little bit of a step back because of a couple things, injuries, but also, I believe, some players are getting older. Some players just did not play as well as you would have expected them to, especially on the offensive line. The defense was actually pretty good compared to years prior, but offensively, especially on that offensive line, and some wide receivers really underwhelmed. So this was a big draft for them to get back on track and be able to compete for a Super Bowl. These are the prime years for Aaron Rodgers' career. I mean, it is time for him to get another Super Bowl under his belt, on his hand, and you don't want to lose this. I mean, you have a great opportunity here to compete for Super Bowls, to win Super Bowls. Do not lose this opportunity. You will regret it in the future, post Aaron Rodgers' life, and it could be coming sooner than you may think. So let's take advantage of it now, and I think they did that today. I really believe that the Green Bay Packers had one of the better drafts in 2016, and let's talk about it here. We're going to start with the first round pick. 27th pick overall, Kenny Clark, defensive tackle out of UCLA, and I'm actually quite shocked at how many people do not like this pick, how many people disagree with this pick. I can't believe it. The Green Bay Packers have a need on their defensive line. Kenny Clark is probably going to be a 3-tech, but I think he has some 1-tech potential in him to be a nose tackle for this Green Bay Packers team. But I talked about some players on their team underwhelming last year. I thought Latroy Guion was one of those players, and opposite of Mike Daniels currently on the depth chart I see on the Green Bay Packers, the schedule to start would be Josh Boyd or Datone Jones. Datone Jones, who's been pretty much underwhelming since he was drafted in, I believe, the 2012 NFL draft. They needed another piece on their defensive line. They got one here in Kenny Clark, who I believe was a first-round talent heading into the draft. This is the end of the first round. The Packers needed a defensive lineman. They got one here. I don't know where else they should have gone. And considering the fact that they got the men they wanted in the second round, I don't know what else you can say. And speaking of the second round, let's talk about it now. Packers draft Jason Spriggs. They moved up. They got Jason Spriggs out of Indiana. Love this pick. Oh, and I got ahead of myself real quick. The Kenny Clark grade was an A-. Now, moving on to Jason Spriggs. Love this pick. This guy went to the NFL Combine. He was absolutely tearing it up. I think when you look at the positions and you look at the drills, he was the best offensive lineman, I thought, across the board in terms of, he didn't have the best 40, the best bench press, but in terms of solid numbers throughout each and every drill, I thought Jason Spriggs really came to play and really showed how good of an athlete he can be. Prototypical size at over 6'6", over 300 pounds. Could probably put on another 10 pounds, to be honest. A little light, but nothing to worry about there because he has plenty of strength to back it up. A guy that was at Indiana, let up a couple more sacks than you would like against some premier talent every now and then, but for the most part was a consistent pass protector and a good run blocker as well. You wish he could be a little stronger against the run, but overall, you're trying to talk about protecting Aaron Rodgers. And I think Jason Spriggs can do that. This is an A grade for me. David Bakhtiari is currently on that left side. They're talking about moving him inside to left guard. I don't know how he'll do there, but I know Jason Spriggs will be just fine on the left side. Next, we have the third round pick, 88th pick overall, and that was Kyler Fackrell out of Utah State. Love this pick. Currently, the linebackers for the Green Bay Packers, you have Julius Peppers, who's getting up there in age, Clay Matthews, who's still really consistent, really good, but I thought the Packers could really need to add another pass rusher to this unit. They do it by adding Kyler Fackrell, who I actually had as a second-round pick, and the Packers get him here in the middle to the end of the third round. Great value, a guy that I believe fits the prototypical 3-4 outside linebacking build at about 245 pounds, about 6'3", was on a Utah State defense that is known for rushing the passer and being a good defense as a unit as a whole. I think he's going to come. I think he's going to have nice production his first year. I think he could even have 6 sacks, even in a backup-ish role. And then from there, grow and be a really good pass rusher for the Green Bay Packers to come. This is another A from me. Packers acing this draft so far. But then we get to the pick that I don't like, the pick that I like the least, and that is Blake Martinez out of Stanford. This is a guy that's kind of a throwback linebacker somewhat. He doesn't have great long distance speed, great side to side speed. Now, in short quarters, though, he does have some nice burst to him. He had a nice 3-cone at the combine, a nice short shuttle. A guy that in the tackles, I think, can make some nice tackles against the run, but he struggles in coverage. He can't really cover tight ends, and I think that's going to be a big issue when you're talking about this guy potentially matching up against Jimmy Graham in an NFC Championship game or Greg Olsen in an NFC Championship game. And you're trying to talk about winning Super Bowls for the Green Bay Packers. I think Blake Martinez is going to have some issues going against a lot of tight ends in this league, and I really don't like this pick. I had him as probably being a 5th, 6th rounder. They take him in the 4th round. Don't love the value. Don't love the pick. I can see where they were going, but I'm not in love with it. I give it a C+. Next, we move on to Dean Lowry out of Northwestern. A lot of people like this pick a lot. I'm not one of those people. He was on a Northwestern defense that was pretty good this year, but I think he's just not very good. I didn't see anything for this guy. I didn't see him flashing on tape. He's going to be a 3-4 defensive end, but regardless, I didn't see any creativity in terms of pass rush moves. He's just kind of a bull rusher, just going after tackles, not really being creative, not coming out with something that we haven't seen before. I don't think he's going to be able to beat a lot of offensive linemen on the next level. Now, the good thing is he's only a 4th round pick, so it's not going to be a big detriment to your football team to take Dean Lowry and hope that he can figure it out, and hopefully that he can add a lot of pass rushing moves. And he's pretty good against the run. Really, it's just the pass rush. Like, he can't do anything against the pass. And when you're talking about an NFL now where 60, 65, 70% of the time your opposing team is throwing the football, Dean Lowry is not going to be able to do anything for you. That's just unfortunate. I can see the potential, though, here with Dean Lowry. If he can, again, if they can coach him up, I think he could really end up being a good pick for them. So I give it a B. We move on to the 5th round, 163rd pick overall. Trevor Davis out of California. This is a guy that pretty much no one knew about heading into the combine. Went to the combine, and you could see really good potential out of this guy. Had nice hands, nice route running ability. Really was probably one of the top performers from the combine in terms of the positional drills. And he ran a nice 40. Ran a 4.42 40 in a draft class where the wide receivers, for the most part, were pretty freaking slow. Has some kickoff return ability as well. And I think this is a coil that the Green Bay Packers are kind of missing on their special teams. So I think Trevor Davis could come in and really make an impact on special teams, kick returns, punt returns, and be able to add another dimension to this football team. Offensively, he's not going to bring anything to you. Not because he's not good. Like I talked about, he was great during the positional drills. You guys have way too many receivers ahead of him. You're talking about Jordy Nelson coming back healthy, Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams, Ty Montgomery, and now Trevor Davis. He's not going to get any passes or any catches this year, any passes his way, probably none. I wouldn't be shocked if he got none. But he can make an impact on special teams, can even be a gunner for you on the outsides for special teams. So I like the special team mentality of this. I question, though, the fact that he's going to have trouble making the roster because there's so many wide receivers in front of him. Oh, and I even forgot Jeff Janis and Jared Abbrederis, or however you pronounce his last name. I'm not good with his last name. So he may not even make the football team when you look at just so many wide receivers, but if he can make the team, I think he can really make an impact on special teams. So I like the pick just in terms of the special teams value, but I question the wide receiver value. I give it a B+. Next, we move on to Kyle Murphy out of Stanford. I really like Kyle Murphy, but again, I question, is he going to get on the field? We just talked about moving David Bakhtiari to left guard, so we no longer have a need at right tackle, left tackle, at guard. We don't really have a need. Josh Sid was kind of disappointing last year, as was TJ Lang. Maybe he can play inside at guard. I'm not really sure about that, but as just a player, Kyle Murphy, a guy that actually played pretty well this year, protecting for Chris Hogan over at Stanford. I think he made All-Pac team, maybe the second All-Pac team this year, but was a little bit, he lost the competition in training camp, was moved out of his position this year. So a guy that can do something for you, but I question whether or not he's going to make the team because, again, I'm not sure about the Packers are really stacked, so it's going to be really hard for fifth and sixth rounders to make the team anyway. But I think you could have went somewhere else here. I really would have liked to seen the Packers draft a running back in this draft. Eddie Lacy was one of those offensive players that I talked about that really underwhelmed and underperformed in 2016. James Starks is nice, but man, he's getting old. He's been there for a while. I'm not sure how old he is. He should be at least 28 by now, 29, maybe even 30. I think they probably should have invested in a running back here. I think that would have been a better strategy for them to take. But they go offensive tackle. They really want to protect Aaron Rodgers, and I get it. You know, last season was really bad for Aaron Rodgers. He couldn't get the protection he needed, so they're doubling down. They're tripling down at the tackle position. I can't hit on it too much, and I do like Kyle Murphy, the player, so I give it a B+. But overall, when you look at the way I grade, right, the first rounds have such a tremendous weight as compared to the lower rounds. So this is a weighted GPA and overall grade that I'm about to give. Even though I question some of their day 3 moves, I overall give this, I calculated this, I concocted a whole metric system and blah, blah, blah. I ended up getting a GPA of 3.65, which is an A- on my scale. And comparatively, I've only done one of these so far, but the Tennessee Titans got a 3.14, which was a B. So you're much better than them. We'll see how you stack up when I finish each and every team. I'll have a list of all those GPAs ranked in order. But right now, 3.65, really good, honestly. Again, I question some of these second-day picks. I don't know if they're going to make the team, but overall, a nice draft for the Green Bay Packers, especially in those first 3 rounds. I think you've gotten 3 starters in Kenny Clark, in Jason Spriggs, and eventually Kyler Fackrell. And I think those 3 is where the draft, your draft, is the strongest. So until next time, James Carter TV, I'm out. Peace.